11. We're hoping we got this thing right. We're going to bring Coach Skibitski on in just a moment. Want to make sure I give a special shout out to the Rome Sports Hall of Fame for sponsoring all the Legends shows for the past 2 months, and they have been fun. I've enjoyed every minute of it. I've learned so much that I did not know about some of the coaches that I thought I knew. And I also want to make sure I give a special shout out to the Ryan brothers for helping sponsor tonight's show as well. So thank you to them. And I want to make sure I thank Coach Linda Harjung, too, for this past weekend on Saturday. We did the Rome Sports Hall of Fame Women in Breakfast with Gloria Purcell Coleman. That episode is over 1,000 views, and I really appreciate the support there. So without further ado, after numerous attempts, we're going to hope we got Coach. So let me just bring him here onto the show. Let me get him here on in 3, 2, 1. Let's put him on. Come on. There we are. I think we got you, Coach. How are you?
I'm doing good, Rock. How about you?
Doing good. You know, I got to say, out of all the coaches that get this thing right, the only one that's gotten on with no problems has been Coach Harjung.
You know, that women are always fighting with the guys. I got to admit that.
Well, Coach, I appreciate it for taking the time tonight.
I appreciate you giving me the time. It's great.
No, absolutely. Well, Coach, I want to get into, I didn't know too much about your playing career. So if we can kind of start with the playing career, I know you played on a lot of good RFA teams. You didn't lose many games. I know that, but talk to us about the playing career.
Well, I started out Rome Colts, Pop Warner football. And my 2 coaches were Ray Vaccaro and Nick Bettini, both inducted to the Rome Sports Hall of Fame. So maybe that rubbed off a little bit, you know. And then eventually when I went to Rome Free Academy, you know, I never lost a football game in my life playing. I was undefeated in freshman, undefeated in JVs, and undefeated in varsity. So, you know, it just I had great coaches. That's the number one thing that I remember. And I can tell you my coaches, I mean, Coach Don Bruce, Coach Ed Weed, Jim Rafferty, Bob Ryan, Coach Evans, Coach Bennett. And the thing about it is, if you think about it, every one of them are in the Rome Sports Hall of Fame. So I think me, you know, playing for people like that kind of set the tone where I wanted to be. You know, it taught me a lot. They were great people, great men, and great coaches. Never forget them.
And Coach, one of the things that's been a common theme with all the coaches that I've been able to speak to has been a lot of the names you just mentioned. Those names obviously have played an impact on a lot of, you know, you guys as coaches. Talk to us a little bit about how those coaches impacted your career.
You know, first of all, you know, you hear stories about Coach Evans, you know, and I hear all guys, you know, that in the 70s and the 80s, and 90s, how tough he was. You know, he was the hardest guy to play for. Well, they have no idea. Okay, I'll give you an example. 1964, he was fresh out of Syracuse University. Me and Dave Davis try out for freshman basketball at Staley Junior High. We come in, here's this guy. He's screaming and he's yelling, okay, boys, this is it. We practice every day from 3 to 5:30. On Friday night, we finished it up. He says, okay, tomorrow is Saturday. We go 9 to 12. Everybody starts cheering. He goes, oh, I forgot. Make sure you bring your lunch, because after you have a lunch break, we go another 2.5 hours in scrimmage. So he was, but, you know, those things, the discipline by those guys, it's just something that carries over, not only in sports, but in everyday life, work and everything else, you know. You know, I can still remember Ed Weed. You know, we were a great football team. That's great players. The players that I played with were unbelievable, you know. And, you know, Ron Rakowski, Tommy Rakowski, Tracy Stubbs, Mike Davis, Bruce Simpson, Marty Shearer, you know, Air Force, Army. They all went Division I football players, you know, and that's the way it was. And but these coaches, Don Bruce was just he was a player's coach. Let's put it that way. You know, anybody that, you know, he had a great career going, and perfect example. I mean, he stepped down because he wanted Coach Hope to take over and still stay in Rome. And who would do that? So that just shows you these guys, what kind of guys they were back then.
And Coach, I always say that I was fortunate enough and blessed to play for. I did get a chance to play for Coach Bruce, and I always said that Coach Bruce back then was always ahead of the game. He was doing things when I played that was really 10 years ahead of where some of these other teams were. But I got a chance to play for a lot of legendary coaches here in Rome, and I try to tell my son and some of the kids that I coach now, they don't know what coaching was like because I was fortunate and blessed. And you were too, with some of the guys that you played for. I think sometimes we take that for granted.
Without a doubt. As you move on in life and everything else, and I can remember, when I started coaching when Mike Davis at Rome Catholic, I still did things that I learned from those coaches back that I played for in high school. I picked up the discipline part of it. You can't be people nowadays, you can't yell anymore and stuff like that. So I don't know if would last in modern day society, but me, I loved every minute playing for those guys. They yelled at me, and that just made me want to play better, not disappoint them. One perfect example I can give you is Coach Ed Weed, just a remarkable guy, great line coach, and so we're undefeated. I think we had like 30 something games in a row win streak. We're at New Hartford, and we're down 14-0 at half. And we come off over there, and Coach Bruce is talking first and stuff, and then Coach Weed got all of us linemen. I was a tight end, considered a lineman still with him, because
Yep.
we had a lot of blocking back then. And he says, "Boys, you stink. You stunk the whole first half. I'm going to tell you right now, if you don't play the way you're capable of playing the second half, when we go back to Rome, we will get off the bus and we will practice. And that's a promise." Well, make a long story short, we scored 35 the second half, and we won 35-14. But he scared us all to death, believe me.
Coach, where did the when you got through high school, and we'll get into some of your coaching career. When did you know you wanted to get into coaching?
Well, really, I started coaching my son in Little League, down the Rome National Little League and stuff like that. But I didn't really, know if I wanted to get into high school football or anything like that coaching until I received a phone call from my close friend, Mike Davis. He got the Rome Catholic head coaching job, and he called me up and he says, "Come on, I want you to come with me." And I said, "Oh, Mike, I don't know anything about coaching high school football." He said, "I'll teach you." I said, "Well, give me a couple of days to think about it." And thought about it, and it was probably the best move I ever made. Once I got in with them, I was hooked into it. I loved every minute of it. Wouldn't change it.
And Coach, you spent 7 years under Coach Davis as the defensive coordinator, and then you took over. You were asked to take over as the head coach, and the rest is history. What was the biggest transition for you from going from a defensive coordinator, assistant coach, to taking over the program?
Probably learning all the different aspects of the game. I mean, that the kicking game, special teams. Before I just worried about the defense, and did a little bit of the offense. Never really studied it. So then I had to get into an offense, and then I had to hire people also. I was very fortunate, Jerry Fiorini, I asked him to be my defensive coordinator, and that worked out well. I got him to come out with Mike because he was my neighbor across the street, and so we were together in the next 20 years. And then guys like Tommy Berry, I got those guys, Gary Labarge, former players, to hook up with me. But like you said, learning the offensive part of it was probably the hardest thing for me, going to different clinics, meeting with different coaches, and learning what I wanted to do offensively. So, but it worked, I guess.
And Coach, I always say and even in my job and in the business world, you want to surround yourself with good people. And you talk about a lot of those assistant coaches that you had, and how special each and every one of those guys were. And I always say it's not always about the head coach; it's about the people around you. You had some special coaches at Rome Catholic.
Oh, without a doubt. I can still remember. I'll give you, going back when I was an assistant with Mike. when we first started out, we had Bob Jones, we had Tommy Barry was still there. They were coaching freshmen with us. We had Ray Vaccaro coaching with us. Guys that are all in the Rome Sports Hall of Fame. We also had two great trainers, and I want to mention them. They're no longer with us, and they were great friends and great guys. We had Mike Riley and John Barry. Both. They were our two trainers. They were just great. Come to practice, come to games. They're on the sidelines all the time for us. They were just great, great guys. No pay, no nothing. They do it because we're all friends, and we all got along great. But like you said, each year as I went along and different players played for me at Rome Catholic, a lot of them came back to coach for me. And a perfect example is my nephew, Jeff. He was quarterback for Mike, and then went to Hamilton College, played there, got out, took a math job at Rome Catholic for 5 years, and he coached football with me. He coached my son. He was the quarterback coach of my son, PJ. So, things have a funny way of working out. And then my son, he graduates from Rome Catholic, goes to RPI, comes back. Jeff left for Oneida. He takes Jeff's math teaching job, and he ends up coaching Brendan Ryan, some great quarterbacks. So it was a great, time how things work out. You're fortunate to get real good people that love football to coach for you.
Coach, from talking to a lot of the RCH coaches, and we always had the fun conversations with a lot of your players that were friends of ours at RFA, the battles and back and forth.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Now you're an RFA guy. What was it like to be an RFA grad to go over and coach at Rome Catholic?
Yeah, it was very different, obviously, but once you get into coaching, and I never looked at it as I tried for all of us to get along, and we did. Coach Bruce, Coach Hoke, all of us. I mean, after the games, I went to their games, they came to my games. We'd go down to Quinos afterwards and celebrate a little bit. But it was certainly different. RFA, RCH, the red and white versus the black and orange. I loved them both, and I never had any problems with anybody. Say, why'd you go there? Why'd you do this? Everybody understood, and everybody cheered on for one another. So it was Rome football.
That's right.
Just the red and white. It was Rome football.
And Coach, let's go back to some of the RCH. Some of the teams that you had, and for me, I remember the '88 team because my dad was still at Westmoreland in '88, and you had a special team that year. But you've coached a lot of good teams and a lot of good players. But was the '88 team probably the most special for you?
That was '88 team was was a great team. We had some great linemen. Freddie Pacheco, Big Freddie, a Rome police officer now. He was a great, great football player. Sammy Constantino was our tight end. We had Dylan Gifford, Joe Bly. They were speedsters. And my son was our quarterback. A great football team that, we lost in the finals. But it's still, they were great players and they knew how to win and they knew how to lose and they took it in stride. Also, the year before that, in 1987, my son was a junior. We also went to the finals and we had some great players in that team. Mark Vaca. Remember, I'm sure you know Mark.
Oh, yeah.
He was one of our linemen. John Boyer. We had some great skilled players. T.J. Mullen, Joe DiMaggio, John Nixon, who went on and played college football. Sean Hughes. Those are great football teams and a lot of great memories with them. But I think probably of the 80s, the biggest thing that I remember the most, and I want to mention this guy because I'm the AD also at Rome Catholic, and there's not a lot of money like there is at other schools where, your taxes and all that, and that goes to, we had to raise our money. So Booster Club was big, and I had a guy by the name of Charlie Constantino, a Rome legend. People don't know this. If you wonder why Duluth's Field is up there for all your kids to play baseball and stuff, there's the guy that was big behind it. Well, I'll tell you one story about him that I will never, ever forget. Take it to my grave with me. So his son at 88 team, his son's my tight end, and I get a phone call. We're going to the Dome, playing for the championship. I get a phone call from Charlie. He says, "Hey, Dennis, how'd you like to take the team, after your practice on Friday and stay overnight? Won't cost you a dime." I said, "What?" He said, well, he says, I own a hotel there in Syracuse called Charlie Bubbles. And I said, you're
Coach, I could hear you, but I lost the picture. We'll see if Coach can get back on. But I was telling him I remember the '88 team because my dad was still at Westmoreland, and my dad. Hey, Coach, can you hear me? I can hear you, but I can't see the picture. You might have to try to scroll back on there. I can still hear you guys, though. I can't. We'll see if we can get Coach back on. We're having some technical difficulties before the broadcast, so hopefully we can get him back on. He was just going into a good story. But again, I was saying I remember the '88 team when my dad was still at Westmoreland with Coach, and it was a really good team. And I believe my dad's team, we had just gotten off the field, and they were just warming up to go on the field. And he had a good team. So let's see if we can get him back on here. I can see you guys. Yep. I think we're back, Coach.
okay.
We're back. See the new day with technology?
Oh boy.
It's not like the old days.
No, it's over my head.
Coach, when you were telling your story, and I want you to finish that story, I can't remember, and my dad would probably yell at me, but I think my dad's team was just getting off the field as you guys were warming up, or we were the game after you guys.
You were the game after us.
Okay. But it was the same year.
Yes, it was. Yes,
okay,
it was.
That's what I thought.
Yeah. But anyways, getting back to, so Charlie Constantino, we're going to stay at his hotel, Charlie Bubbles. So he shows us the rooms. He takes us in. He goes, "Oh, by the way, Coach, you're going to be in Coach Dick McPherson's room." Well, you
Ooh.
could not believe this room. It had more videos, cameras, but everything else. And here I am, a young rookie coach, and I'm staying in Dick McPherson's room at Syracuse. Our players had a ball that weekend. The Friday, he had pizzas delivered at 8 o'clock to each kid's room. I couldn't thank Charlie enough. Just a great guy. And I want to mention this, that he has COVID. He's been down with COVID for about a month now. So all you people out there, send prayers his way, because he's a great guy. And another thing that he did for us, people, remember the red Rome Catholic buses?
Sure
Charlie
do.
Constantino bought those buses for us. Back in the 80s, that's the type of guy he was. Had them all painted red, Rome Catholic football, Red Wings on the side. And, we had some great people that volunteered their time to drive those. Ken Wengert, Bob Coluccio, those guys all volunteered and players saved a lot of money by having those buses, and this all through Charlie Constantino.
Coach, you got a bunch of comments. Let me try to pull some feedback. We were talking about Freddie Pacheca. So Freddie says, there he is, the legend. He goes, love the man right there. Absolutely love playing for him. Man, could he get you fired up for a game? Another one of the old school great coaches that left everything I had on the field for Coach Ski.
Freddie was a great player, great guy, and you can see it carried over in life. Here he is. Anybody that's a police officer, in my opinion, in this era we're living in right now, I have the utmost respect for.
And, Coach, you got Nicky Aquino says, Coach Ski was Rome Catholic sports. The time he put in to make sure all the programs succeeded is what made us who we were. Thanks, Coach, for all you did and for preparing us to be successful in life.
Nicky is a good boy. Obviously, if you knew the Aquino family, Nicky always tried to get me to say, because I coached at RFA, I coached him at Rome Catholic, and I coached his brother, Michael, at RFA.
Yep.
He always wanted to know who was the best. Well, Nicky, I'm going to have to say that Michael was better than you. No, I was just kidding. They were both great football players, and talent-wise, probably equal, and just great players. And I certainly got to mention their father, because their father was another great donator to Rome Catholic. Just a great guy. Miss him dearly.
And, Coach, you got Steve Smith says, Coach Ski, what a great person, exceptional coach.
Yes, Steve, he went to Rome Catholic, played baseball there. Just a great guy. He came back and coached basketball and stuff later on, too, and taught there.
Coach, I got to ask you this question, because your team's played – you've coached and played on Friday nights. You've coached and played on Saturday day games. There's nothing like Friday night lights, right? Or Saturday afternoons. What do you prefer?
That's a tough one, Rocky. When I played, I can tell you this. The old RFA Stadium, the old RFA school was there. We were there at 4:30 with Coach Bruce, and they had the big windows, and we'd look out to that stadium. And this is a true story. You looked up there to that press box, and the first people there for every home game was John and Joan Davis, Mike Davis's parents. They were up underneath there at 5 o'clock. We knew we were right on time, and 5:30 we'd be out there for pregame. Friday night lights at that stadium. How could you forget that? I mean, there's nothing better. Like you said, then you go and you start coaching and you're playing on Saturday afternoon. That's a different game. And we were very fortunate at the Rome Catholic to play Saturday nights at the stadium. So it wasn't Friday nights, but still was Saturday nights. And it was a great night for our kids to be in that condition, play in that field.
Coach, I always thought that the Saturdays when I played on Friday nights at RFA, but when my dad was coaching up at Waterville and I coached at Sequoia, we had some Saturday games. It just always seems like it was harder to prepare for a Saturday afternoon. The kids were sluggish versus a Friday night game. We didn't have a good record on Saturdays.
Yeah, I hear you 100%, Rock. You get into that mode where, all of a sudden you're getting up at, 8 o'clock on a Saturday morning, and, you got to eat right, and then you got to go play a game. It's just so much different. And Friday night, it's the sun is not out beating down on you, on a Saturday afternoon. Sometimes you're going out there. It was, even in upstate New York, it was hot for the players and stuff. It was a different world. And like you said, you can't beat the night games. Day games are very, very tough.
Now, Coach, when you stepped away from Rome Catholic, you went over, ended up going back with Coach Davis when he was the head coach. What was it like going from being the head coach there to reuniting with Coach Davis?
Well, it was great. A chance to go back to my alma mater, RFA, and we RFA football was starting to decline a little bit then. I think the base moving out and everything else. So we knew we had our hands full, but I think we did overall. We didn't have a losing season. I was there 5 years with them before I left, and had some great players. And to come out again, I'm playing on Friday nights, the field that in the locker room that you grew up in. To come out there was, there was nothing like it. We had some great players too. I'll give you some perfect examples of some great players that we had there at RFA. Tommy Manning went on,
Hmm. Yep.
kicker at New Hampshire, great quarterback. He kicked the 42-yard field goal. I remember that. Jeff Morat, Nick Martin, another police officer.
Yep.
He was one of our quarterbacks, and he was a good one. Went out and played at Utica College. Uh, Michael Aquino, and then of course the Bonanza brothers.
Yep.
Santino and Sal. They were all, Vinny. They were all great athletes, and I'll never forget it. I was very grateful to be able to go back there. We lost football at Rome Catholic. We were declining, and Mike got left Hamlet College and was able to get the RFA job. So that was it was great going back.
Coach, I always joke because I always say when I played with Justin, and I wish we could have had a chance to run Coach Davis's offense back when I played. We didn't throw it too much because we were more of an option team.
Yeah.
But what were some of the changes for you from being at Rome Catholic to getting back with Coach Davis and with his offense? Obviously, it was much different than your offense in ways. But what was so different about it?
Well, he wrote, it was the George Walsh offense that he ran. The one back set, the little motion, and you're throwing the football a lot. And you ran inside zone and outside zone. That was your run plays. It was simple, but it was advanced in those days where other teams were not used to seeing that. And defensively, for me, being a defensive coordinator, the hardest part was now you're going against the Liverpools, the CNSs,
Hmm.
CBAs, and those schools that there's a lot of great football players there. So you defensively, you had to be ready for everything, and it wasn't like not to downgrade Rome Catholic or that level, but that was CD football. This was AA football, where you had 5, 6 college football players on the field, and preparing for them was certainly a lot harder. But we were able to do it, I think, just because we knew we've been together all of our lives. We knew each other. I could tell you the next thing going through his head. He could tell you the next thing going through my head. We knew each other like that. So, it was a great time.
Coach, I laugh now because when you look at college football and even when you look across high school football now, it's all the spread offense, it's all the up tempos, no huddle, inside, outside zone. It's so much different than even when I played. But I got to say, you old school coaches, my dad would be yelling at me on the sideline saying, get in the I formation and run the football, quit watching TV. And I got to ask you because you coached your son and he threw for I think it was over 1,600 yards, coach. And don't quote me on the stats, but I think over
Yeah.
1,600 yards and I think 18 touchdowns.
Yep. Yes, it was great being able to coach your son. And again, I can't imagine what he would have done in the Mike Davis offense, where you threw
Hmm.
it. I mean, we probably only threw it 12, 13 times a game,
Hmm.
maybe for him. And so to throw, he has a career record of touchdown passes, career at Rome Catholic, passing yardage and everything like that. But the one kid, he came back and coached with me after he got out of college, my son PJ, and he coached Brendan Ryan. And
Hmm.
Brendan Ryan beat his single season record, not the career record for touchdown passes, but the single season record. Brendan Ryan broke it in 1995. So Brendan was a great quarterback too.
Yeah, and you definitely coached a lot of good quarterbacks, coach, your time. But I want to ask you this question too, because if you
Yeah,
go back to the athletic director side too, you took over for a couple legends at Rome Catholic, Coach 80, obviously one of them, and then Frank Didio. So
yeah.
you had to follow legends on the academic side as well.
So when Mike in 1982, when he said he was leaving for, you know, Hamilton College, obviously that, Mike came to me. Frank Diddy was out because he had a heart attack and stuff. So Mike was the AD then, and they asked me if I wanted a job, and I said obviously yes, I want the job. So Mike was able to get me hired as the coach, as the head football coach, and then 4 years later, in 1986, Mike came to me and he was leaving for New York Mills and asked me if I wanted the AD's job. I said yeah, and so after I got the athletic director's job, the first phone call that I received was from Frank Didio. He was the assistant to Dickie Meese over at RFA, and he said, "Dennis, any questions you have, anything you need, you just call me anytime." And so he broke me in while he was at RFA. We rode to all the Section 3 meetings, the state meetings together all the time, and he trained me. Everything I learned was Frank Didio. God bless him. He was a great, great guy.
Coach, you answered this question a little bit, and I've asked all the coaches this, but and I keep saying the old school coaches. My dad's one of them. But
Yeah.
do you think that you guys could have still coached in today's game?
Yeah, I think we could. I would like to believe that we could, but you know, uh, obviously it would be a lot harder because back then when we were coaching, parents supported you, pretty much 100% all the time. They backed you up. There was reasons, they knew their kids needed discipline. They knew they needed this. Nowadays, that would probably be not so much the coaching aspect of the what play you're going to run or anything like that, or what defense you're going to run. It's being able to handle everything else now, where you can't turn your back because if you say the wrong word,
Hmm.
you're going to be up before the board and probably getting fired, or you're going to be getting sued, or taken to court over something. It wasn't that way, back then, Rock. I firmly believe society is just a whole lot different now. That's, and I, right down here I am in Georgia. My grandson is 6. He plays baseball. My other grandson, 10, he's playing baseball. And my granddaughter's 12. She plays softball. And I'm on the board for the softball field down there. And I just shake my head every day when I go there and listen to the parents,
Hmm.
the other players. Now it's a different world. That's all I can say on it.
Coach, I get it. I still help my son's played flag football. This will be his
Yeah,
first year of
yeah,
tackle football, and I'll never forget last year at one of the first practices, we had parents coming up to me saying, "My kid's got to run the ball. My kid's got to throw the ball," and I'm sitting there saying,
yeah,
"They're 7, 8, and 9-year-old
yeah.
kids. I'm trying to teach them their right from their left, let alone who can throw
Right.
the ball."
Exactly. You're 100% right, Rock. And just the other day, I'll give you a perfect example. Uh, I'm the director on duty from the softball league that my granddaughter's in, and I got parents screaming at the umpires, screaming at the players, screaming at the other coaches. I have to go over and tell the guy, look, if you don't calm down, I'm going to have to ask you to leave. You're not going to be welcome around here. And it's just different, Rock. That's all I can say on that.
Yeah, it's much different today. You got more comments on here, Coach. Coach Nicky Darge says, "The best ever. I owe him everything I did in coaching."
Nikki was a great guy. After Mayor Izzo, as I'll still continue to call her Mayor Izzo, even though she was Jackie Izzo to
Yep.
me. She was our girls basketball coach when she left. And I brought Nikki in, and Nikki also coached football with
Yep.
me, like that. And so, it was great. He was a great guy. Did a great job in that, taking over for a legend in Jackie.
You got James Murphy says, "Great coach."
James Murph, I tell you what, him and his brother were two very, very good football players. And his his brother, Big Mike. I don't know if you ever heard of him. 6'5", 240, went on to play at Wagner.
Yep.
And so did Jimmy, played down there also, and he's a police officer in New York City. Great family.
And you got more here. Let's see who else we got. We got Coach from up in Frankfurt. Coached against them a few times. Had some great games coaching against the Roman Catholic and Coach Ski. Great guy and great coach.
Yes, we had some great games against Frankfurt. A great rivalry. Great coaches. It was always you played the game hard, and after the game you shook hands, and there was never any problems with them. I have utmost respect for the coaches at Frankfurt.
Always
Definitely
well coached too. All class.
Always,
So
yes, all class.
you got
Yep.
Kevin Campbell says one of the best. Thanks for everything, Coach.
Kevin Campbell, yes, of the Campbell brothers, and their father again. Steve, he was a teacher at Rome Catholic before he left, but he coached my freshman football with us. He also coached in basketball for me. Great guy.
And Coach, now I think when you were finished up with Coach Davis, I think you went back right to Rome Catholic before the RCH Notre Dame merged together. You went back and coached, I think, for a few more years, right?
Yeah, we went back. What we did was we played like a JV football team for 2 or 3 years just to get the kids. We had like 19 or 20 players, not a whole lot of them. And the other schools in the area had the same thing. They lost varsity football, so we'd play games against them like that. And it went on for a few years. We were able to keep it going. So that was great. But the one thing I just want to mention, Rock, is one more guy I have to bring up, because at Rome Catholic, it was all about raising money, because they didn't give you any money for sports. You had to raise it. So I had, in the 80s, I had Charlie Constantino. That was no problem. So in the 90s, we have a guy by the name of Joe Ryan. He brings his boys over, Marty and Joey and Kevin and Brendan. So that was I said, okay, Joe, you're my next Booster Club president. and it was great. Joe would do anything. I'd say, Joe, I need new uniforms for basketball. Boom. Okay, give me a little time, Dennis. Give me, he talked with slow, soft voice. Give me a little time. A week later, you come back and hand me a check for $3,000 or something. Here, go get your new uniforms. But yes, another great guy, and deeply, deeply missed. And I lost 2 great friends here in the last year or so, and that's Tommy Berry, who coached with me a lifetime, a great friend. Our family's very close. You lose him, and then like 18 days later, I believe it was, Joe Ryan passes. So, you never forget people like that. You take them. Other people didn't know them as well as I knew them, but first class.
And I know both the Ryan, Kevy Rye's on here, and Brendan. Let me pull up Kev's comments here first. Kevin says, nothing got you ready for taking on the real world more than having Coach Ski as your coach. We had a running joke when our RFA football buddies were driving home past our field. We knew we had an hour left to practice.
I still can remember that. We'd be out there, and the RFA boys would go by, and they'd be beeping the horns.
I might have been one of them coming by your field.
Yeah, probably.
When you mentioned Joe Ryan, and I know Kev's on, and Brendan, one of the things I remember the most about Joe was when we were growing up in Little League. They were Kevy Ryan, Brendan. Those guys were on VFW, and we were on the police team up in Federal Little League. And every time we used to play VFW, Coach Rye would call me up and say, "You ready for the green machine? You ready for the?" He was always on me. But great memories. Travel team basketball with Coach Ryan, and just great class, and deeply missed for sure.
Without a doubt, And Kevy, obviously in '97, he was my quarterback, and he led us all the way. We lost a heartbreaker. We didn't get to play in the Dome because Syracuse was home that weekend, so the semifinals were played outside on the turf outfield at MacArthur Stadium. Well, we played in a 30-mile-an-hour wind, pouring rain. We got beat 3-0, and it was just we had a touchdown call back and that was just a heartbreaker. But there were some great players in that team also. Nicky Aquino was on that team. We had Joe Renzi, and we also had another great player, Vinny Cianfrocco, great big
Yep.
tight end, 6'5", 250. Some great players during that era. All the Ryan boys. Brendan, we talked about him earlier, same way. He led me all the way to the Carrier Dome finals. A great team in that era, great players that he played with, so it was just a lot of fun times.
And Brendan, he says, honor to play for Coach Ski. Always had us prepared, and there wasn't a better motivator.
Yeah. Well, you try, back then, and your dad, I'm sure, has told you many times, we'd go to different clinics and you'd hear the guys, these coaches talking, and you take a little bit from each and every one of them, and you learn a lot from those college coaches back then. And
right,
that's where we picked a lot of our speeches up from.
Let's see, you got Robbie McKeever. Thanks for everything you did for us over the years, Coach. Glad to see her looking healthy and happy.
Bobby McKeever and the McKeever brothers. Yes, they were great Roman Catholic people. Bob was a good football player. Pleasure to know.
So, Coach, you're down in Atlanta. So, are you a Georgia Bulldogs fan out there? Is it all Georgia football?
Well, you never forget where you came from, Rock. Okay, I'm still a Syracuse Orange fan. Okay, I'm still a New York Yankee fan. Okay, I have, Atlanta Falcons. I watch them a lot, and but the nice thing about being down here is I'm friends with a lot of high school football coaches around here, and my best friend is a guy he's a coach at Marist High School here, and he won the state. He's won like 7 state championships. He's got 428 wins,
Oof.
number 1 in the state of Georgia.
Wow.
And his quarterback in 2004 that led him to the state championship is a guy you might know this guy, Sean McVay.
Sure do.
That was his quarterback. So that just tells you the athletes around here. It's just amazing, Rock, when I go to these games. They're just tremendous athletes.
Coach, for a young coach coming in now to coaching, obviously it's, I always said I wasn't a teacher. When you're not a teacher, I think it's a little harder because you're not at the school as much as a teacher is to really see what goes on. But for a young coach now that's looking to get into coaching, what advice would you have for him?
Well, the biggest thing I would tell him, is that, like you said, somehow, try to get a job at the school where you can be around these kids. You learn how they are in school. And that was being an athletic director. That's what helped me. I was there every day. And if they got in trouble, the teachers sent them to me because I was there and they knew, I was going to discipline them like that. So I would tell them, try to get into, whether it be a teaching position, a physical education teacher. It's very tough to do it from the outside. You can do it as an assistant, I think, from the outside, but you can't beat being there every day. You hit the nail right on the head, Rock.
All right, you got more comments. You got my Uncle Paul, Coach 80 says, great coach, better friend.
Paulie 80, yes. I'll tell you, we go way back. His family and my family. When I first got married, me and my wife rented upstairs apartment from his parents. Okay, Gene and Scoop, great people. And then after we moved, bought our house up on James Street, my wife's parents' house. We built an apartment on the back, and that's where his mom, Jean, lived with us before she passed away. Yes, great family, great friends.
I had a bet when he was on the show. Everybody said we got the over-under on how many F-bombs that he's going to drop. And I told him before the show, I said, Uncle Paul, I said, I'm not on the radio, so you could swear as much as you want. But he had to have my Aunt Bonnie sitting next to him saying, don't swear tonight. Don't swear tonight. Because no way he goes an hour without cussing.
Yeah.
No way.
He's a legend, that's for sure.
Coach, you got Ellie Gottlieb says, legend. I learned so much from him and think about him often. Honor to play for him.
Ellie Gottlieb, Ellie Zulo was her maiden name, Roman Catholic. She was probably one of the best girl athletes I've ever coached, without a doubt.
I remember her.
So when you're at Roman Catholic and you're the AD, well, they don't pay very much to coach. So All of a sudden, I got a girls' track team. I got nobody to coach it. So who coached it? I did. Okay. But this girl was the fastest 100-meter runner I've ever saw in my lifetime. Believe me, hard worker. And she was our number one as a seventh grader. She could beat everybody in all of the Tri-Valley League, and the CVC. She was just a great person.
And you were speaking of Mark Vodka, but we got some comments from Vok here. Says discipline, toughness, preparation, work ethic, life lessons through football taught by Coach Ski. Thanks for developing young men into successful adults. Can't thank you enough.
Vodka was a great player. I just tough, hard-nosed lineman, as tough as anybody, as good as anybody I ever coached, and it showed. He went on to be a starter for Coach Davis at Hamilton College. But I still remember he played on that '87 team with Joe DiMaggio, T.J. Mullen, and them, and he was our leader. And he was also a great baseball player.
Coach, a few last things I wanted to just touch on. I know you got into, I think it was the class of 2010 into the Rome Sports Hall of Fame, and I know it was a special class for you, and I believe you went in with your Pop Warner coach, right? Coach Patini?
Yes, I did. He was a great football player. I don't know if you knew that much about him, but I mean, he was a big star at the University of Buffalo. And then, you come back and you start out playing football, and here you are, you coached by Ray Vaccaro and him. It was just a tremendous honor. I wish he would have been there, alive to receive his award. But his son, and I talked to his son, and told him all about his dad, and he was just a great guy. It was an honor to go in with him.
And Coach, last thing I just want to ask you, who were some influential people throughout your coaching career?
Well, let me say this, Rock, my family. And I get kind of emotional over this, but my brother John and Lenny, my brother John passed away 3 years ago. He would be 90. He was 87. My brother Lenny is 82, still going strong. I mean, my dad died when I was 7 years old. These guys, are 15 years older than me or more, and they had to stay home and take care of me a lot because my mother was out working. And so they were kind of the big influence on me. What they did for me was everything for me. It was great. And then also, influential was having the honor to coach my nephew Jeff, my nephew Bob, who was a starting center for me, and a linebacker, and be able to coach my son. Those things like that. It's just very, very influential was my brothers. And to me, family is everything. And, then again, I can't thank Mike Davis enough for, obviously I would have never got into coaching probably if he didn't have that phone call to me and have enough faith and belief in me that I could do the job. So I owe him a lot, believe me.
And Coach, how special is it to be in that Hall of Fame with a lot of those coaches that you talked about, and just to be part of it right here in Rome?
Like I said, the Rome Sports Hall of Fame, first class, Dave Spraglia, Coach Fleet, Tommy Berry was there for a long time. He ran the golf tournament and like that. And then, all those coaches that I mentioned earlier in the show that went in with me, I can't believe it. Every one of them, Coach Bruce, all of them, Coach Ryan, Coach Weed, just great guys. And all of a sudden, you go to the Hall of Fame and you look and you see your plaque on the wall. Then you look over and you see the other guys that are there, all guys that coached me. So it's just an honor. It's just Rome Sports Hall of Fame. I just hope that I try to contribute and do as much as I can living down here. The golf tournament, I always send things for the golf tournament plaques. All the guys I know, the Tom Berry and Joe Ryan, pictures on each plaque for that. And it's a great organization. And I know this COVID has hurt them a lot. And I just hope we can get back into getting our classes back again. It's a great time going there and watching people get inducted and listening to them.
Well, Coach, listen, I appreciate you taking the time tonight. I'm glad we were able to finally figure this thing out. And you're a class act, and I can't thank you enough for coming on with me.
Okay, Rock, I just got to say one last thing before I go, because she spent all the time you're getting me this up. But I got to thank my boss and my wife, Donna, all the years of coaching. You realize that too, because with your wife and your mom and dad, she had to prepare all the meals, do all the other stuff around the house, pay the bills because I was out coaching all the time. So I can't thank her enough for everything that she done for me. And I can't thank you, Rock, for having me on the show. It's a great honor, and I appreciate it.
Well, Coach, take care, and yes, thank you, and stay in touch.
Okay, Rock. Thank you.
All right, Coach. So that was awesome. Coach Ski has a lot of good stories, and it's nice to hear the connection from show 1 to show 11. And it's hard to believe that next week I'm going to reschedule and have Kelly Hoke on with me next Wednesday night. And then we'll have to get Coach Tony Abone. We'll get him rescheduled. And then the Rock Pile, the Legends shows come to an end. But so many great stories. And again, I remember a lot of the old RCH stories. We always had that competition between RFA and RCH. But one thing I can honestly say is we respected all the athletes over there at Rome Catholic because they had a lot of good athletes that could have played over with us. Without a doubt, they could have played. So thanks, Coach. I appreciate it. Again, I want to make sure I thank the Rome Sports Hall of Fame. Thanks to all the listeners. I'm glad we were able to get this show going here tonight. And I'll post next week's show. We'll go with Kelly Hoke. I'll be excited to chat with her. And then starting next month, I'll have to let you guys know what dates we'll be going with. My son starts baseball. His games are Monday, Wednesday night, so we might have to do the Rock Pile on an off night. But I'll bring in the WKTV crew is set to join me next month, so make sure you stay tuned for that. The Mohawk Valley Sports Watch on Saturday mornings from 9 to 11. This Saturday morning, I got a special guest, one of my favorite coaches to come on the show. Colgate head football coach Dan Hunt will join me, and New Hartford girls basketball, Kaya Henderson's going to join me on the show on Saturday morning. So I appreciate that. So on behalf of myself tonight, the Rock Pile, as I say every Wednesday night on the Rock Pile is where dreams